In a modest neighborhood, 12-year-old Jayden spends his days tinkering with bikes, dreaming of becoming an engineer. One fateful bike ride home leads him to a stranded car and a decision that will change his life forever. What starts as a kind gesture turns into an encounter that changes Jayden's life forever. The boy, armed only with his father's lessons and a toolbox, finds himself fixing a car belonging to none other than a global superstar. But instead of accepting money, Jayden takes a bold risk, asking for something far greater, a chance to learn. Little does he know, this decision will set off a chain of events that leads him to prestigious stages, inspiring mentorships, and a future he never imagined. Stay tuned to see how one small act of kindness turns into a life-altering journey filled with surprises, challenges, and opportunities beyond his wildest dreams. Before we dive deeper into this gripping story, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, Epic Story Moments, yet, now is the perfect time. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update, and be the first to hear our incredible new stories. Don't forget to like, share, and comment to support more heartwarming tales like this. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We love hearing from you. The sun hung low in the sky, painting streaks of gold and orange across the modest streets of Jayden's neighborhood. At just 12 years old, Jayden had already earned a reputation for being the boy with the brightest smile and the quickest hands when it came to fixing anything with wheels. Whether it was patching up an old bike chain or helping a neighbor tighten a squeaky car door, Jayden's skill set was far beyond his years, thanks to the countless hours he spent with his late father in their tiny garage. Jayden's father, a mechanic by trade and a dreamer at heart, had been his hero. The two of them would spend hours together, huddled over engines and tools, his father's deep voice guiding him through the intricacies of nuts, bolts, and carburetors. "Son," his father would often say, "every car has a story just like people. You fix them, you understand them. One day, you'll fix things that go way beyond cars." Those words stayed with Jayden, even after his father passed away suddenly 2 years ago, leaving a void that no engine or tool could ever fill. Life had been tough since then. Jayden lived with his mother, a hard-working woman who juggled 2 jobs to make ends meet. Despite their struggles, she always encouraged Jayden to dream big and never lose the kindness that defined him. "Your dad would be so proud of the way you carry yourself," she often told him. And those words fueled Jayden's determination to one day make something of himself. After school, Jayden loved nothing more than riding his bike through quiet streets, imagining himself as an engineer working on the sleek, high-performance cars he read about in magazines. He carried a small toolkit in his backpack at all times, just in case he came across something that needed fixing. To him, every day was an adventure waiting to unfold, and this particular day was no exception. As he pedaled home from school, the sound of his tires crunching against the gravel road was the only noise in the otherwise silent stretch of highway. The sun was beginning to dip lower, and the orange glow bathed everything in a surreal light. Jayden's eyes scanned the horizon, always curious and alert. That's when he saw it. A gleaming, black luxury car pulled over on the side of the road, its hazard lights blinking rhythmically. At first, he slowed his bike and observed from a distance. The car was unlike anything he'd seen up close before. Its sleek design and polished exterior screamed wealth, a stark contrast to the rundown vehicles he was used to seeing in his neighborhood. Jayden's heart raced with a mix of curiosity and caution. Who would be driving a car like that on this isolated road? And why had it stopped? Against his better judgment, Jayden decided to investigate. He told himself it was just to satisfy his curiosity, but deep down, he couldn't ignore the possibility that whoever was inside might need help. He had been taught to never turn his back on someone in need, no matter how small the problem. As he got closer, he noticed the driver's side door slightly ajar and a figure pacing back and forth near the front of the car. The man was tall and dressed in a casual hoodie and jeans, but his face was obscured by the hood and large sunglasses. From a distance, Jayden couldn't make out much more than his frustrated demeanor. The man occasionally glanced down at the car's front tire, which sagged flat against the ground. It didn't take long for Jayden to realize what the problem was. "It's just a flat tire," Jayden muttered to himself, a wave of relief washing over him. He had helped his father change dozens of flat tires in the past. This was something he could handle. Still, he hesitated. What if the man didn't want his help? What if approaching a stranger, especially one in such an expensive car, wasn't the smartest idea? But then, as he watched the man struggle to fumble with a jack he clearly didn't know how to use, Jayden's sense of compassion overpowered his fear. Taking a deep breath, he pedaled closer and called out, "Hey there, need some help?" His voice, though steady, carried an undertone of nervousness. The man stopped pacing and turned toward Jayden, his expression hidden behind his sunglasses. For a moment, there was silence, and Jayden wondered if he'd made a mistake. But then the man lowered his head slightly and shrugged, gesturing toward the flat tire. "Yeah, I guess I do," he said, his voice deep and smooth but laced with frustration. "You know anything about cars, kid?" Jayden nodded eagerly, his nerves easing as the conversation began. "I do. My dad was a mechanic, and he taught me everything he knew. I can help you fix that tire in no time." Without waiting for permission, Jayden hopped off his bike, parked it against a tree, and walked over to the car. He didn't notice the slight smirk on the man's face as he watched the boy's confidence. As Jayden got to work, he marveled at the car's pristine condition and advanced features. This wasn't just any car. It was a dream machine, the kind of vehicle he could only hope to work on in his future career. He carefully assessed the damage, explained what needed to be done in clear, simple terms, and asked for the tools he needed, which the man retrieved from the trunk. "What's your name, kid?" the man asked, leaning against the car as Jayden expertly loosened the lug nuts on the flat tire. "Jayden," he replied without looking up, his focus entirely on the task at hand. "And you?" The man paused for a moment before responding. "Call me Calvin." His tone was casual, but there was something almost amused in the way he said it. As the minutes ticked by, Jayden's skill and efficiency became apparent. He worked with the precision of someone far older and more experienced, his hands steady and his instructions clear. Calvin, if that was his real name, couldn't help but feel impressed. "You really know your stuff, don't you, Jayden?" he remarked. Jayden smiled shyly. "I've been doing this for as long as I can remember. My dad always said there's no problem too big to fix if you just put your mind to it." By the time Jayden tightened the last bolt on the spare tire, the sun had dipped below the horizon, and the sky was a deep shade of indigo. Jayden stood up, wiped his hands on his jeans, and admired his work. "There you go," he said proudly. "Good as new. Just make sure to get that tire replaced soon." Calvin looked at the boy, his expression unreadable behind his sunglasses. "You're something else, kid," he said after a moment. "You didn't have to stop and help me, but you did. What do I owe you?" Jayden hesitated, suddenly shy again. "Oh, you don't have to pay me," he said quickly. "I just wanted to help." But before Calvin could respond, Jayden caught a glimpse of the man's face as he adjusted his sunglasses, and his heart nearly stopped. His jaw dropped, and he blurted out, "Wait, you're Snoop Dogg?" Jayden pedaled closer to the sleek black car, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and apprehension. The sun had dipped lower, casting long shadows across the deserted road. He could now see the man more clearly, tall, dressed in a hoodie and sunglasses, pacing back and forth near the car's front tire. His movements were sharp, frustrated, as though he'd been at this problem for far too long. Jayden hesitated for a moment, unsure whether to approach, but the values his mother and father had instilled in him, to always lend a hand when someone was in need, spurred him forward. "Excuse me, sir," Jayden called out, parking his bike a few feet away. His voice was steady but carried a hint of nervousness. "Do you need help with that tire?" The man stopped mid-step, turning toward the sound of Jayden's voice. For a moment, there was silence, the only noise coming from the faint rustling of leaves in the gentle evening breeze. The man tilted his head slightly, as if sizing Jayden up. "You? A kid?" he said, his voice deep and skeptical. You know anything about cars? Jayden straightened his posture, determination flickering in his eyes. Yes, sir. My dad was a mechanic. He taught me everything I know. I've fixed a bunch of flat tires before. The man let out a short laugh, a mix of disbelief and amusement. All right, kid. Let's see what you've got. Tools are in the trunk. He gestured toward the back of the car. Jayden didn't need to be told twice. He grabbed the toolkit from the trunk and crouched down next to the car, assessing the damage. The tire was completely flat, the kind of blowout that couldn't be patched up on the spot. Looks like you've got a spare in the trunk, Jayden said confidently. I'll get this swapped out for you. Won't take long. The man crossed his arms, leaning against the car as he watched Jayden work. Despite his initial skepticism, he couldn't help but feel intrigued by the boy's confidence and skill. Jayden worked methodically, loosening the lug nuts with precision and sliding the damaged tire off the axle. He explained each step as he went, almost as if he were back in the garage with his father. You always want to loosen the nuts in a star pattern, Jayden said, glancing up briefly. Keeps the pressure even. The man raised an eyebrow, impressed despite himself. Where'd you learn all this, kid? Jayden smiled faintly, his hand steady as he positioned the spare tire. From my dad. He always said there's no such thing as a small problem. You just have to tackle it the right way. As Jayden tightened the last bolt, he paused for a moment to wipe his hands on his jeans. It was then that he caught a glimpse of the man's face as he adjusted his sunglasses. Jayden froze, his eyes widening in disbelief. He blinked a few times, convinced his mind was playing tricks on him. But no, there was no mistaking it. The sharp jawline, the iconic goatee, the unmistakable aura of coolness. Wait a minute, Jayden stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. You're Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg chuckled, lowering his sunglasses slightly to reveal his face. Well, you got me, kid, he said, a grin spreading across his face. Didn't think I'd get recognized out here in the middle of nowhere. Jayden's jaw dropped. He couldn't believe it. Snoop Dogg, the Snoop Dogg, was standing right in front of him, and he just finished fixing the legendary rapper's car. For a moment, Jayden was at a loss for words. His hands trembled slightly as he stood up, brushing the dirt off his jeans. I can't believe this, he said, his voice filled with awe. You're a legend. Snoop laughed again, clearly amused by the boy's reaction. Appreciate that, little man. But right now, you're the real MVP. You just saved me a whole lot of trouble. Despite the surreal moment, Jayden forced himself to stay professional. He took a deep breath, pushed his excitement aside, and checked the spare tire one last time to make sure everything was secure. There you go, he said, stepping back. Good as new. Just make sure to get that flat replaced as soon as you can. Snoop nodded, clearly impressed. You've got skills, kid, and a good heart, too. Not everyone would stop to help a stranger like you did. Jayden shrugged modestly, a shy smile tugging at his lips. It's just what my dad would have done. Snoop reached into his pocket and pulled out a thick wad of cash. Here, he said, holding it out to Jayden. Take this. You earned it. Jayden stared at the money, his eyes wide. He'd never seen so much cash in one place before. But instead of reaching for it, he hesitated. A bold thought crossed his mind, one that made his heart race. This was his chance, an opportunity that might never come again. Summoning all his courage, Jayden looked Snoop in the eye and said, Thank you, sir, but I don't want your money. Snoop tilted his head, clearly taken aback. You don't. Jayden shook his head, his voice steady despite his nerves. What I really want is a chance to learn, to meet people who can help me follow my dreams. I want to be a car engineer someday, and, well, you've achieved so much. Maybe you could give me some advice or point me in the right direction. For a moment, Snoop said nothing, his expression unreadable. Jayden's heart pounded in his chest as he wondered if he'd made a mistake. But then, a slow smile spread across Snoop's face. You've got guts, kid. I like that. He slipped the money back into his pocket and pulled out his phone instead. Tell you what, how about we stay in touch? I've got an event coming up, a private one. Big names from all kinds of industries. You come as my guest, and I'll introduce you to some folks who can help you out. Jayden's eyes lit up, disbelief and excitement washing over him in equal measure. Are you serious? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Dead serious, Snoop replied, holding out his phone. Give me your number, Jayden. This is just the beginning for you. The day of the event arrived, and Jayden could barely contain his excitement. Dressed in his best outfit, a simple but neat button-up shirt and slacks that his mom had pressed for him. He stood at the grand entrance of a sprawling venue in Los Angeles. The towering building glittered with lights, and a red carpet stretched out before him. Jayden clutched the invitation Snoop had personally sent him, feeling both out of place and like he was stepping into a dream. Relax, Jay, his mom whispered, giving his shoulder a reassuring squeeze. She had taken the day off work to accompany him, though she insisted that this was his moment. Jayden took a deep breath and nodded. This wasn't the time to doubt himself. He was here for a reason. The doors opened, and the atmosphere inside hit him like a wave. Laughter and chatter echoed through the high ceilings, accompanied by soft jazz music playing in the background. Tables were adorned with elegant centerpieces, and the room was filled with people in suits and evening gowns. But it wasn't the glitz and glamour that made Jayden's heart race. It was the people. Everywhere he turned, he spotted icons he recognized from magazines, TV shows, and online articles. Engineers who had designed world-renowned cars, CEOs of major automotive companies, and even a few celebrities. Before Jayden could take it all in, a familiar voice boomed behind him. Jayden, there he is. He turned to see Snoop Dogg himself striding toward him, dressed in a sharp suit and exuding his signature confidence. The room seemed to pause as Snoop placed a hand on Jayden's shoulder. Everyone, meet the kid who saved me on the side of the road, Snoop announced, his voice carrying across the room. This little genius fixed my car and turned down money for something much bigger, an opportunity to follow his dreams. A ripple of murmurs and applause followed as Jayden felt his cheeks flush. Snoop guided him to a table near the front of the room, where Jayden found himself seated with some of the most influential people in the automotive industry. He recognized a man who had designed electric sports cars, a woman who had pioneered advancements in car safety, and even a famous racer whose posters once hung on Jayden's bedroom wall. At first, Jayden felt nervous and out of place. These were adults who had accomplished so much, and he was just a kid with a passion for fixing things. But as the conversations flowed, he found himself opening up. He shared stories about his dad, how they used to work on cars together in their small garage, and how those moments had inspired him to dream big. His genuine enthusiasm and knowledge about cars quickly caught the attention of everyone at the table. One of the engineers leaned in, her eyes sparkling with interest. You've got a real talent, Jayden, she said, and a passion that can't be taught. Have you ever thought about joining a mentorship program? I'd be happy to guide you. Another person chimed in, offering Jayden a tour of their company's headquarters. By the end of the evening, Jayden had collected a stack of business cards and promises of mentorship and opportunities. He could hardly believe what was happening. Just days ago, he had been fixing his neighbors' bikes for spare change. Now, he was sitting among giants, being treated as their equal. The highlight of the evening came when Snoop took the stage. With a microphone in hand, he addressed the crowd, his voice carrying a tone of both humor and sincerity. You know, I've been blessed with a lot in life. Snoop began, but every now and then, something happens that reminds you of where you came from. This kid right here, Jayden, is one of those reminders. He reminded me that it's not about where you are, but how you give back. It's about recognizing potential and lifting each other up. Snoop motioned for Jayden to join him on stage, and the room erupted into applause. Jayden's heart pounded as he walked up, feeling a mix of nerves and pride. Snoop placed a hand on his shoulder. This kid didn't just fix my tire. Snoop continued. He reminded me why it's so important to invest in the next generation. Jayden didn't ask for money. He asked for a chance. And that takes guts. The applause grew louder, and Jayden felt his mom's eyes on him, filled with pride and love. In that moment, he realized the true weight of his decision to help Snoop that day. It wasn't just about fixing a car or meeting a celebrity. It was about believing in himself and seizing opportunities when they came. The story didn't end there. News of Jayden's encounter with Snoop spread quickly, becoming a local sensation. The story of the humble, hard-working boy who had impressed one of the world's most iconic celebrities resonated deeply with people. Local news stations interviewed him, and articles popped up online, praising his maturity and ambition. Jayden, the boy mechanic, became a household name in his community. But for Jayden, the real reward was the mentorship he gained. True to his word, Snoop stayed in touch, checking in on Jayden's progress and encouraging him to keep striving for his dreams. The professionals Jayden met at the event kept their promises too. One of the engineers invited him to shadow her at her company, giving him a first-hand look at the world of automotive design. Another introduced him to scholarship opportunities for young students passionate about engineering. Jayden's life began to change in ways he had never imagined. He went from fixing bikes in his garage to interning at a prestigious automotive firm during his summer breaks. His teachers at school noticed his newfound confidence, and his grades in math and science soared as he threw himself into his studies with renewed determination. The ripple effect of Jayden's story extended far beyond him. His community, inspired by his humility and drive, rallied to support other young people with big dreams. Local organizations started offering free workshops for kids interested in mechanics and engineering, using Jayden as a symbol of what could be achieved with hard work and a little faith. As the years passed, Jayden never forgot the moment that had changed his life. He kept the original lug wrench he used to fix Snoop's car, hanging it on the wall of his workshop as a reminder of where it all began. And though his journey was just beginning, one thing was clear. Jayden's story was a testament to the power of kindness, determination, and the belief that even the smallest act can lead to something extraordinary. The story comes full circle with a scene set several years later. Jayden, now a young man of 18, is hard at work in the sleek, state-of-the-art workshop of a prestigious engineering school. The sunlight streams in through large windows, glinting off the rows of advanced machinery and tools. Jayden, wearing a pair of safety goggles and a name tag that reads Jayden Thompson, lead project designer, adjusts the prototype of a fuel-efficient car he's been building with his team. The room hums with the sound of teamwork, voices calling out measurements, machines whirring, and the occasional burst of laughter. Jayden pauses for a moment, stepping back to admire the nearly finished prototype. It's a culmination of years of dedication, late nights, and the unwavering support of people who believed in him. The car gleams under the bright lights, a physical representation of his journey from a curious boy with a dream to a young man on the brink of changing the world. A voice breaks his concentration. Jayden, the dean wants to see you in his office, a fellow student calls out. Jayden nods, carefully placing his tools on the workbench. As he walks through the halls of the engineering school, a quiet pride wells up in him. The building is filled with reminders of how far he's come. Photos of award-winning student projects, plaques commemorating groundbreaking inventions, and inspirational quotes lining the walls. He passes a display case showcasing the achievements of students, and there in the center is a photo of Jayden himself, shaking hands with none other than Snoop Dogg at that life-changing event years ago. Reaching the dean's office, Jayden is greeted with a warm smile. The dean, a distinguished man with silver hair and kind eyes, hands Jayden a letter. "Congratulations," he says, his tone filled with pride. "You've been selected for the Global Innovators Fellowship. This is a rare opportunity, Jayden. Only the best of the best are chosen. And I can't think of anyone more deserving." Jayden unfolds the letter with trembling hands, his eyes scanning the words. The fellowship offers a fully funded opportunity to travel abroad, collaborate with leading automotive engineers, and present his innovative designs at an international conference. It's a dream come true, a chance to take his passion to the global stage. Overwhelmed, Jayden thanks the dean and promises to make the most of the opportunity. Later that evening, as the campus quiets down and the stars begin to twinkle in the sky, Jayden finds himself sitting on a bench near the workshop. He pulls out his journal, a habit he picked up over the years to document his thoughts and experiences. As he flips through the pages, he comes across an entry from that fateful day when he met Snoop Dogg. The page is filled with scribbled notes about how nervous yet excited he had been, how he couldn't believe he'd fixed the car of someone so famous, and how that single moment had set off a chain of events he could never have imagined. Closing the journal, Jayden leans back and gazes up at the stars. In a quiet voice, almost as if speaking to himself, he begins to reflect. His words are heard in a voiceover, capturing the essence of his journey. "It's funny how life works," Jayden begins. "I was just a kid on a bike, stopping to help someone because it felt like the right thing to do. I didn't know who he was or what would come of it. But looking back, that one small act of kindness taught me more than I ever expected. It showed me that humility and hard work matter, but so does taking chances, asking for something bigger when you have the opportunity." As the voiceover continues, scenes from Jayden's journey flash across the screen. Him fixing Snoop's tire, standing on stage at the event surrounded by influential figures, shadowing engineers during internships, and finally, working on his project in the university workshop. Each moment is a testament to the power of persistence and the ripple effect of a single decision. Jayden's voice grows more introspective. "If there's one thing I've learned, it's that the world is full of opportunities, some big, some small. But it's up to us to recognize them, to step forward even when we're scared, and to believe that what we do matters. I didn't know that helping Snoop that day would change my life. I just knew it was the right thing to do. And maybe that's the secret. Doing the right thing, even when no one's watching." The scene shifts to Jayden returning to the workshop, where his team greets him with excitement. They've run a successful test on the prototype, and the room buzzes with energy. Jayden smiles, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. This is where he belongs, and this is just the beginning. The final moments of the story take place at a community event in Jayden's hometown. He's been invited as a guest speaker to inspire local kids, many of whom remind him of his younger self. Standing on a small stage in the neighborhood park, Jayden addresses the crowd with heartfelt sincerity. "I know what it's like to have big dreams, but feel like they're out of reach," he says, his eyes scanning the faces of the kids in the audience. "But I'm here to tell you that dreams are never too big. With hard work, kindness, and a little faith, anything is possible. And sometimes, the most unexpected encounters can lead to the biggest changes in your life. So don't be afraid to take that first step." As the crowd applauds, Jayden steps off the stage and is immediately surrounded by kids asking questions and seeking advice. He takes the time to speak with each one, his words filled with encouragement and hope. The story closes with a wide shot of Jayden walking away from the park, his journal tucked under one arm and a smile on his face. The camera pans upward, capturing the endless sky above, a symbol of the limitless possibilities that lie ahead. The final words of the voiceover leave the audience with a lasting message. Kindness has a way of coming back to you, often in ways you never expect. And when it does, it's up to you to pay it forward. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to Epic Story Moments. Join our community for more inspiring tales that celebrate the strength of the human spirit. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new story.